Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show this evening. This evening promises to be an exciting time. I am really excited about the show tonight um, because we are dealing with a very important topic. And this is where we look into specialist universities, the role they have within society at large, um, and we look at the different models that have been employed and that organizations employ to get their resources trained with the right knowledge to be ready to go day one once they've joined. So thank you very much for you all for joining. Please share the link, invite your friends, remind your friends. All the links are right there at the bottom of the screen, the handles across all the platforms. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So please get ready, get your questions ready as you speak to Andy Cook, our guest, about this very important topic. Now, before we get into the details of this evening, I'll just want to touch a bit briefly on Andy's profile. Andy is not new to the higher education sector in in the United Kingdom, but Andy has gone through a very unusual path to becoming the Vice Chancellor of Ravensbourne University London. Now, normally I would read out the profile of our guest, but today I want him to talk about that story. And welcome with me to the show this evening, Andy Cook, the Vice Chancellor of Ravensbourne University London.
Good evening, Akin. Hello, everybody.
Thank you for joining us on the show this evening, Andy. We're really glad you could make it. We know how busy you are, but thank you for making the time this evening to join us.
Thank you ever so much. Thank you for inviting. It's a pleasure to be here.
Fantastic. Well, before we go on, how has the lockdown impacted you?
Um, at Ravensbourne, I think the um, in the first instance we were really quite well prepared for the lockdown. So I think for a couple of months before we were actually in lockdown, we saw this situation developing, and it became sort of reasonably obvious that this was going to be a global pandemic, and that what we were seeing were businesses having to close for 2 weeks at a time, um, at the minimum. So we started our business continuity planning for, initially in the first instance, a 2 week shutdown, which meant that really we had to make sure that all of our systems were um, available and secure, and that we were able to work in that mode. Um, and I think we also, sought to really try and communicate openly and honestly with our staff, and with some compassion and empathy as well, really. So when it actually came to the lockdown, we were actually pretty well prepared for the flip to online learning in that sense.
Wow. Now let's go into. I've got some questions here for you. A recent report, the Higher Education Statistics Agency released a report where they described 90% of your graduates have employment or have gone on to further study. And they also said that 76% of your graduates are in skilled jobs. What is the secret of this kind of impressive numbers?
Thank you, Akin. That's something that we're tremendously proud of at Ravensbourne. We are very much connected to industry, but I think there's three things really here. One of what it's how we develop those our courses, how we deliver them, and also how we support our students. So if I can take those points one by one, when I say how we develop our courses, what we do is we consult with industry about what are the skills that they need, what are the roles that they need now and in the future, and we have an industry advisory board that um, we work alongside. We talk to people in industry and we meet with them regularly. So we're getting advice from people working in those creative industries to point us in the right direction in terms of how we develop those courses. Um, a really good example of that is we've just launched a cloud associate degree and a cybersecurity degree, and those have both been in partnership with AWS, and those courses are they integrate those the AWS qualifications within those courses. So when a student studies there, they not only leave with a degree in cloud computing, but they have AWS qualifications as well. So that's quite a good example. In terms of the delivery, we have a curriculum that we call mindsets and skill sets. So when we're teaching our students, we're not just teaching them about the skills that they need to be a a filmmaker or an architect or a graphic designer. We're also teaching them about the mindset that they will need in terms of the world of work. So we're teaching them about resilience, about how to gain employment. And then thirdly, we a lot of our support services are really geared towards supporting those students find employment. So we have an agency that is run by our student services team that is working with industry and finding projects for our students to work on, but also opportunities for them when they leave us. So our graduates have an extensive amount of industry experience before they graduate. So those are the real key things. It's about how we develop courses, how we deliver them in partnership with industry, and how we support our students in terms of their employability.
In terms of how you work with some of the industry organizations, you mentioned working in partnership with AWS to embed the certification within the training. How difficult was it to get those sorts of agreements in place?
Um, it isn't easy. I think we focus on partnerships as part of what we do. So it's they don't fall into our lap. We have a strategic partnerships group that meet internally within the institution, and we really trying to look at all of the relationships that we've got and change them from being small kind of partnerships into much more strategic relationships as we go forward. So the relationship with Amazon came out of initially a migration of our data center into public cloud. Then we were talking to them about a couple of projects that we're running with the Royal Shakespeare Company, where we're streaming those Royal Shakespeare companies, and we're using AWS Elemental for that. Another project where we're hosting the BBC Motion Graphics Archive, so we're using S3 and CloudFront technologies. So we're building a strategic relationship with suppliers around a number of different areas. And there are a number of examples of that, and Apple is another one where we're trying to work with them not just on one particular area, but looking at them much more strategically and aligning ourselves with them. And really, it's really about understanding what those partners want out of the relationship with us and what we want out of the relationship with them. So we don't want to partner with just anybody. we want to choose those partnerships and make sure that we're strategically aligned and we're aligned with them.
Andy, there's a question I have here for you, and this deals with um, the what impact has your alumni had in driving forward the kind of impressive stats that this report has put out?
Um, I I think we're quite a new university, Akin. So I think what we want to do is build a much stronger relationship with our alumni as we go forward. I think Ravensbourne only achieved university status 2 years ago, and at the same time we achieved taught degree awarding powers back then. So um, I think we want to work much more closely with our alumni in terms of supporting our students' employability. And I think what a really good area for that is in the sort of coaching and mentoring area, and involving our alumni in those in supporting our students in terms of uh, helping them develop the skills and find the opportunities for employability.
Great. Now, one question I think I have to ask here before we move on from the points that deal with leadership here is your journey to being vice chancellor hasn't been a typical one. You have come from a technical background as chief information officer, then you moved into before becoming vice chancellor. Can you talk to us about that journey and what it was like to make that transition from a technical background to
Yeah.
the leadership one you're in now?
Yeah, thank you. You're right. Typically, many universities, the career path to become a vice chancellor is through the academic route. But really, universities, I think, increasingly are looking for. I think they see themselves as businesses, and as well as learning establishments. But from a leadership perspective, I think there are three sort of really key areas that I think leadership at any level requires of you, and that is really it's about a vision, having a vision. It's about engaging with people, and particularly your staff, and it's also about delivering results. Um, so my background in terms of um, leadership within technology, I think first of all, it's important to say I never really thought of myself as really technical. I saw myself as a business leader with responsibility for technology, and leading those kinds of operations. I think gives you some really good insight into some of the that key areas of expertise that you need to run any business. So competency around finance, around developing strategy, around leading and managing people, things like project management, and clearly in this day and age, and particularly in this COVID moment, technology. Um, so I think all industries are being impacted by this new technological revolution. Industry 4.0 is a phrase that you may be familiar with, but many industries are being transformed with technology. And I think, particularly in this COVID-19 pandemic moment, where many businesses have had to flip overnight into an online working mode, then that technological background is actually a really strong strength, a big strength rather. So being able to lead the institution through that technology, effectively a digital transformation, has stood me in really good stead for Ravensbourne into the future.
Do you see this as being potentially a trend for the future where, in a lot of organizations, IT is kind of not really part of the business. You're just get things moving, get the business moving. And now we're seeing that, as you say, with COVID-19, everything is now really dependent on technology. Do you see the trend growing in future where people with a technology background start to move more into the mainstream business roles?
Well, I think we will all need, everybody in the future will need to have some technical competency, and whether that's in the first instance, whether it's using systems to just just operate IT systems and find data, at that sort of level, we will all need to have some technical competency. Um, but I think that I think it, it's about, there's many aspects to it though. I think, and it's still about people, and it's still about really understanding for IT people, for them to really understand what the business is all about, and contribute to that, and see themselves as leaders rather than IT people.
Wow. Now, in terms of your journey, you've talked about this transition, but what three things would you give in terms of advice would you give to someone that said, "Hey, uh, I want to move into leadership. I want to move into a role similar to yours." And while might not be moving from IT into a VC's role, but it could be moving from IT into finance, for example, or into some other role. What
Yeah.
are the top three things that moving into your role has taught you that someone else could learn from?
um, I think resilience is a key factor. Um, be prepared to fail a lot. You only have to succeed uh, once, if you like. When you're applying for roles, but obviously there's a lot of failure along the way, and being able to learn from that failure, and grow from it, I think is a key piece. And that's about believing in yourself, and really, you know I guess I guess it's self-belief, and also being able to sort of pick yourself up after a failure is really what resilience is about. Um, um, what are the other sort of key things that spring to mind? Um, I think flexibility as well. You be prepared to to change with the business, and change with the organisation, and think of yourself as, think, I guess, think bigger than you might imagine, and be ambitious is another key piece. Um, and I think it's about communicating and being authentic with people as well, because um, when if you treat people well, you will be treated well as well.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, let's talk more specifically about the sort of transformation that Ravensbourne has gone through over the last 2 years, and how that has put you in a position for the future. So we'll look at what you did in the past, and then we'll talk about what your plans are for the future.
Okay, yeah. I think in the first instance, really, there's a lot of um, there's a lot of things to worry about within a university, but actually, really, if we only need to really worry about three things, and if we worry about keeping it simple and really focusing on three key things, then it's almost like the business will look after itself. So the three sort of KPIs that I said to everybody in the organisation is we need to make sure that we deliver an excellent student experience, and that is measured through the National Student Survey, and make sure that we really focus on what the core business is about, and that's making sure that we deliver an excellent learning and teaching experience for our students. That's the first one. The second one is making sure that we recruit students and that we have a compelling offer that we can take out to the market and attract people to come to Ravensbourne. And the third one is really about financial sustainability, to make sure that we keep control of our costs, and that we create a healthy surplus that we can then reinvest back in the business in terms of equipment and infrastructure to make sure that we're again delivering an excellent student experience. So when I first joined Ravensbourne, it was those were the three things that I really got everybody to focus on, and that's an incredibly easy message to be able to communicate to people. So my goal there was really for everybody in the institution, whether you're a professor delivering a lecture, or whether you're somebody who works on reception or in the cafe or somewhere, everybody knows that the three things that they need to worry about are making sure that we've got a compelling offer, that we're recruiting students, that we give our students the best possible experience that we can possibly give them, and that we control our costs.
And how difficult was it for the organization to get on board with your new message at the time?
It felt quite easy because that is a very simple, clear message to send to people, and everybody in the institution can relate to that. It doesn't matter what job that you're doing, you can relate to one of those three things. Whatever job that you're doing, that you know that those are the three things that you're contributing to, and that you need to worry about. So it was actually really quite easy to get everybody focused on those three key messages. It's and I think that was really just to sort of focus us as an operation on what are the really important things that we have to worry about.
So now that you've taken the university through this journey, you've gone through digital transformation, you've got excellent programs in place working with major industry partners. What does the future hold in store for the university?
Yeah. So in terms of the vision for the future of Ravensbourne, certainly for the next 3 to 5 years, we've got a lot more to do in terms of a digital transformation. And I think there are four kind of key areas there for us. We want to expand our business in terms of really becoming a much bigger institution, and a more effective institution. And the way that we're going to do that is through our digital first strategy. So the four things that underpin that digital first strategy are some new disciplines that we want to develop. So with emerging technologies in artificial intelligence, big data, data visualization, virtual reality, there are some really big technological advances that are creating new roles within industry and new roles that we need to start preparing graduates for the future. So we want to create some new courses and new disciplines there. I think secondly, we want to really and um, understand how those new technological and digital industries are impacting on our traditional industries that we already work in. So how is artificial intelligence going to affect the fashion industry? How is virtual reality going to impact architecture? So the various these various technologies will impact on every industry, and particularly the creative industry. So we've got to kind of refresh our curriculum so that they're staying relevant for the future. I think thirdly, certainly for the foreseeable future, we are going to be in a hybrid delivery mode. And by hybrid, what I mean is that we will have some face-to-face activity taking place on campus, but a very small amount, only really the essential skills need to be taught face-to-face, and then we'll be teaching much more online. So it's about how do we build that hybrid model is the third thing. And then the fourth area really is purely online delivery, where we want to break into non-traditional markets and reach new audiences internationally as well as nationally. So really delivering courses where perhaps somebody could be studying anywhere in the world, and then perhaps come to London to study photography for a couple of weeks. But they're also working remotely. And new courses in continuous professional development, for instance, where we're giving people core pieces of learning that will help them advance their careers once they've left Ravensbourne, or a new foundation pathway, for instance. So those are some ideas of the new developments that we're looking at doing over the foreseeable future.
In terms of how, if we start to look at the student engagement side of things, how has that changed, or how do you foresee this changing from a student's perspective? You know, someone who now has to spend maybe most of their time working remotely. How do you foresee that sort of change impacting the actual learning experience?
I think it will drive some permanent change. And I think there are a couple of sort of areas in particular where, for us, I think where we have previously sort of students have come in and travelled into the campus to sit in a classroom and listen to a lecture for 30 minutes or for an hour. And I think those we will be looking to pre-record those lectures in the future so that students can watch those in their own time, or at their own leisure, or at their own convenience. And it means that they can watch those lectures several times, and we will be able to bring in world experts in certain aspects of the course. So that I think that that's certainly a change that we want to look at in the future, about that, having a much more flexible approach to the lecture part. And then when students do come into the university, they're working on problem solving activities, they're working on practical pieces where our lecturers and staff can really support them and really help them develop. So that's one aspect. I think the other area where we've seen a significant improvement or uptake is in the one-to-one interactions between students and university staff, and whether that's in the sort of tutorial sort of aspects, or whether it's from the counselling and support services, students much prefer that method of engagement rather than having to come into the building and meet people face to face. Those are two really significant bits of learning that we've seen over the last 6 months, where students prefer an online experience than they do to a face-to-face experience.
So, do you see new courses evolving over the coming months and years in higher education as a whole, with this advent of digital transformation?
Absolutely, yes, yeah. I think um, the new modes of delivery, and um, there are some big organisations out there who are looking to disrupt higher education. I think um, Google, Amazon, some big players are looking at how education is disrupted, and I think we want to be part of that. We want to be on the leading edge of it. Um, and that's one of the reasons for working closely with those big industry partners, is because we want to be driving that change as well. So I think there will still be the 3 year on campus degree that people will want to take, because you know going to university is not just, for many people, it's not just about the learning experience. It's about the social experience, and you an opportunity for them to really broaden their horizons, and make new contacts and meet people that they wouldn't otherwise meet. So the social aspects of being at university are really important, and I'm sure that will continue. But I think the digital transformation is opening up new opportunities for people who perhaps don't want to spend 3 years on campus, perhaps want to study around work, or perhaps their family commitments, or internationally. And it will really add more flexibility and more reach, and open up access for education, I think.
Wow. Now we've got time for maybe about one or two more questions. What would you say to someone, a student, thinking about the university they want to go to, the course they want to study? What top two things would you advise such people?
um, I, from my experience, in terms. Sorry, forgive me, Akin. What do you mean by that? Are you talking about of, what,
So
what should
this
they
is
look?
for the
What
students.
should they?
For the
What should they?
students who want to come to university, what do you want to say to them um, to bring them to Ravensbourne University?
Well, of course. Well, I think obviously I would encourage people to look at our website, Ravensbourne University London. But I think for me, I think it's about employability. I think, and that connection with industry, and particularly in this day and age, students are required to um, you know take on significant. It's a significant cost coming to university, and it's an investment in your future. So I think for me, one of the key things would be about the employability at the end of your course, and what are the chances of getting a job at the end of it, and whether that's going to be something that in an area that you're interested in. And at Ravensbourne, we offer absolutely fantastic experience and a really tremendous array of courses that people can study.
All right. And the last question for you is where we look at um, this categorization of specialist universities. and mainstream universities, and the advantages of one over the other. Um, Number one, do you encourage and support more specialist universities like yours springing up?
Um, well, I, I think from my perspective, I think the specialist university has um, it has a focus and a sense of purpose that is perhaps lost within bigger institutions where it, um, some universities are you can study computer science, but also history and art. I think that the small specialist universities absolutely have a really sharp focus on what they're there to do, and that means that everybody within that institution really has a very similar um, mindset and a really focused approach to education and delivering a great student experience.
Andy, thank you very much for joining us today, taking time out of your
Not at all.
really busy schedule on a bank holiday, which should have been more of a time to rest. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Um, and to our viewers, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate you. The clips are already available on YouTube, Facebook, and the different social media channels. And once again, thank you for your time. We appreciate you. We'll be back again tomorrow on another interesting topic. Tomorrow, we're going to be looking at accelerating digital transformation in sub-Saharan Africa. And we want to look at organizations similar to Andy's, uh, how they are using technology to advance, to grow the bottom line, to grow their revenues, and to make sure that they are moving with the industry trend. So join us tomorrow, 7 p.m. British Standard Time, for another session with another industry leader. Thank you for your time.